Understanding how context plays a role in a child's development is important when catering for children within the education system. Contextual factors play important roles in the lives of all the children, irrespective of their background. Their social ecological systems vary. If their background is wealthy, poverty, multicultural, or refugees, teachers need to engage students in educational outcomes regardless. To do this, they need to understand and accommodate, considering their upbringing. Uri Bronfenbrenner studied children and put forward the Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory model, consisting of 5 layers: the microsystem, mesosystem, ecosystem, macrosystem, and the chronosystem. According to Bowles, Grace and Hayes, his theory is based on the fact that we are all part of a system, and a system that should show no bias towards anyone. However, influence around us impact a child's educational development. His model shows layers demonstrating as a child develops and how the changing properties around them change, they become affected and their perception of the context modify to suit. Three male students the same age all start school together and are exposed to the same Australian curriculum. For example, the introduction of reading, addition and arts. Therefore, the expected outcome of the 3 boys is that they will graduate school on the same level. However, this is not generally the case, as the boys' backgrounds and upbringing are different. Student A has a family life where he lives with both his parents in their family home. Both parents work. Student B has just moved out of a refugee village with his younger sister, aunt and uncle, and is struggling with the English language. And student C's family are Indigenous. They have just moved into the Housing Commission home. They are sharing with another family and do not know how long they will be staying. For the students to navigate their way through the education system effectively, they need the system to understand they come from different microsystems. And this is where their standard of living and learning starts. Ray demonstrates how a lack of finance and stability can affect children's education. The interconnecting contexts of children differ and begin before they start school. They can have multiple contexts, both inside and outside the home. A context is a practice, activity, or event that takes place within them and can give major influences on their educational development. Before student A started school, he spent time with his Anglo-Saxon family, was introduced to extended family members, the family church group, and he attended playgroup. Hours were spent playing games, learning colours, counting and reading. Therefore, when he entered the classroom, he found himself in a comfortable setting, interacting with other students and eager to please his teacher. His microsystem set him up to expand into the next layer, the mesosystem. With positive support navigates new concepts. Now, this does not set the prevalence for the student to have a successful education, as contexts along the way can change. However, according to Butler, good foundations have been laid. His family is participating in his schooling, building a positive relationship between the two. They have welcomed his friends into their home, provided assistance with schoolwork, and have met all his learning needs so he can connect with the lived curriculum that cannot be provided in a classroom setting. Student B's story is a little different. His microsystem started the same way. However, at a young age, he lost his parents and was placed in a ship with his sister and sent to a foreign country. Placed in a group home and struggled to communicate with anyone besides her. He has become what we stereotype and call a refugee. His struggle to have face-to-face concepts was met with constant barriers. His microsystem and mesosystems were breaking down. The refuge home he lived in had not provided context to navigate around or activities to engage in. He struggled in the classroom and was afraid of his peers as they looked and spoke differently to him. Without interventions, the student runs the risk of becoming a statistic and achieving low educational outcomes, including poor results in the NAPLAN test. Schools also need to be more inclusive with the community. Student B, ecological system, will spill over into his ecosystem once he feels part of the education system and can engage in the intended curriculum. His new language skill will allow him to socialise with the other children in the community. His education attainment will have the ability to be that of student A once he is provided with the same tools to navigate around the curriculum. without anyone showing bias towards him because of his background. Student C is from a poverty suburb like the one seen in the ABC documentary Claymore, an area that is built up with people living in rundown homes belonging to the Department of Housing. A majority of the families are single-parent families or Indigenous families receiving Centrelink benefits. According to Australian Research Alliance for Children and Youth, half of Australia's Indigenous grow up poor. There is a local primary and high school, however attendance is very low, as a majority of the students come from a macro system where they have adapted their own negative overarching beliefs and values of education. The area is now stereotyped with negative attitudes. The community usually socialise amongst themselves, believing their own personal systems have a negative domino effect on younger members once they start school. However, student C has never been to school before and has always enjoyed sitting with his family members, sharing stories and learning the way of the land. He likes to engage. Though when he is confronted with attending school, inside a cold brick room, wearing foreign clothes, shoes, isolated from his family, and playing with a ball, he finds himself being punished. Without intervention, schooling will fail him. He will no longer attend. His prior context learning allowed his such behaviour, was even encouraged. His prior microsystem and mechasystems were now being discarded, and it felt like his identity was no longer valued. For Indigenous to engage in a school setting, they need to feel as if they belong. The school needs to implement Aboriginal pedagogy. This is now being constructed through the Australian curriculum, and this will help Indigenous engage in the curriculum by using their chronosystems, meaning time. Time needs to be given to students so they can see how they change over time and so have the context around them. The students and all the others in the area need a system where their background is acknowledged and accommodations are made for an inclusive education, not an inhibiting one. Students from all backgrounds start school with many contextual factors. Their development to date has been shaped by them. However, once at school, it becomes the responsibility of the community to promote positive educational attainment by providing links from the students' microsystems and working them through the layers to their future chronosystem.